to kick things off, we'll have a quick acknowledgement of country. I hope that this sound works this time. Fingers crossed.
Today I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and the hopes of Aboriginal Australia. As you take your next step, remember the first people who walked this land.
Yes, sure. Okay, so really quickly for those who don't know us, we're Shapeshifters. Everyone, we do communication design, and a lot of the work that we do is through visual communication and illustration. For everyone who does know us, we've got our 1 year anniversary today. So this is 1 year of Think Visual events. A big thank you to all of the speakers who have helped make this possible. We actually have several of them in the room today with us, which is awesome. And we hope that Think Visual has been fun and interesting for all of you, as it has been for us. We're hoping to continue to put on more and more interesting events, and the space is growing. So over the next couple of months, some new developments should be happening. So stay tuned. Again, we often talk about our mission, which is about encouraging visual thinking. If you don't already have a sketchbook, let us know. I think we have a couple, don't we, Diana?
We do.
Yes, so we have a couple. We also have some pens that you can borrow, so feel free to grab one of those. If it is, again, your first time here, we would love for you to take visual notes or sketch note. So really, it's not much different from the way you would regularly take notes. The only addition is that you might be thinking about images as well as words. And that's something that we would really like to encourage. Now, today we have, for our 1 year anniversary, we have 50% off our courses. So this is a Think Visual course where Diana and I spent a long time trying to capture all of the points necessary for you to start your visual thinking journey. So if you're interested in doing more visual thinking yourself and practicing it and seeing how this can actually help you in your work, scan that QR code there. It's got a 50% off thing. So yeah. We also have a podcast for those of you who do not know. So we've been speaking to...
Sorry. I put the 50% off on the wrong slide. So this is for the course.
Okay.
So there's a code there for the course on the other slide.
Yes, but we also do have a podcast. We have been speaking to all the wonderful speakers who come here to present, and there's additional information and more about their individual stories that you can find there. Now, obviously, we could not do these events without the help of our amazing community, but in particular, some partners have made themselves indispensable to us, and we really feel like they deserve a big shout out. So first off, I wanted to give a big shout out to Lead With Community. Adam is here from Lead With Community, and yeah, there's interesting things to say, but we're running a little bit late, Adam. And massive thanks to Atlassian for hosting this space, and also the wonderful breakfast that they've provided. And the other guys are Ironsights, a cybersecurity firm whom we share an office with. And Think Visual was originally held in our shared office space. We definitely could not have done it without them. Okay, so now we're up to Think Visual number 12. I'm going to hand over to Diana, and I'll let you take it from there.
I think I have a mic.
Oh, you do? You're
so.
like one of those fancy conference mics.
Cool. Hi, everyone. This is your...
That's mine?
No, that's
mine. I'll sit over there.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for coming again and for making it despite all the disruptions. So we're going to have... we're a little bit late to start, so we're just going to start. So we've got the amazing speakers, Ben Pecotich, Josh Bradshaw, and Alan Chen. And today we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic. It's the topic of the mind's eye and the imagination. And I think this is very... Let me turn around like this. I don't know if any of you did the QR code at the beginning of the slide. So did anyone do this? So it's a quick, can you hear me? This is a bit of a weird thing that I'm trying on today. So this QR code is just a quick, no, you're actually not in the way. Just a quick thing to see where everyone is with their, or thinks they are, with their own way they visualize things in their minds. And I'm just gonna actually open that really quickly. So we've got some answers. So we split it up. We're talking about the imagination, and we're trying to think about it in a lot of different ways. I actually put up a LinkedIn post about a month ago about this, and I got quite a lot of comments on it. And a lot of it was, so I put out there the question, how do you recall things? And our minds are really mysterious, and actually scientists don't really understand too much about the brain yet, even in our days. And it's just really interesting and fascinating how each of our brains works in a very different and unique way. And so I put out this question, and with it was a questionnaire about vivid visualizations, vivid image creation. I forgot the name of the actual questionnaire, but vivid visualization, I think. But then a lot of comments were, I think in space, and I don't actually see images when I try to imagine, close my eyes, and recall things. I actually think in 3D space, or I don't connect at all with that questionnaire. While others were like, oh, I connect very much. I definitely see very vivid imagery. And so, as you can see here, there's a big kind of range of people, and I'll go back to the QR code in a second, just in case you want to put in your answers again. But yeah, I think this is what we're talking about today. And we've got a panel of speakers who are going to introduce themselves in a second. And what we're going to discuss is our neurodifference. So how we are all different, particularly when it comes to the visual imagery in our minds, and how that relates to our memory, our thinking processes, as well as our creativity. So I guess without going too much further into it, maybe we can start with introductions. So hi, guys. Hi. Thank you for joining us today. Do you want to maybe take turns introducing yourselves, telling us who you are quickly, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
After you, Ben.
I'll start at the end. Jump in the middle.
In the middle. You can tell I'm wearing the evidence of me running from a train that was very full here. Hi, I'm Josh. I'm Josh Bradshaw. I've been in product design for most of my career and recently stepped into a product role. I'm head of product at a small payroll compliance company, SaaS provider called PaidRight. Yes, I think for me, joining this panel in particular, it was really interesting to unpack kind of Ben when I met Ben's mind, and then Alan when been working together or been at events, and just hearing either similarities or striking differences between all of us has been really fascinating. Alan.
Hi. That's weird. I'm sure you all know me now already from my. Okay. It will in a moment, I'm sure. Otherwise, there we go. Okay. All right. So aside from my hurried intro, my name is Alan, and for most of my life, I've been involved in the creative industries. Spent most of my career actually in filmmaking, but I've had the great fortune of working at Shapeshifters and starting Shapeshifters with Diana the last couple of years. A lot of what I do is related to the kind of craziness that's inside my mind, and I use visualization as a way to communicate, but also as a way to kind of manage what's going on in my head. So we'll get more into that in a little bit.
Awesome. And is this working? Is it doing the same? Awesome. So morning, everyone. Great to see and meet a bunch of you. So I'm Ben. I'm a designer, coach, and the founder of Dynamic 4. We're a small social enterprise and B Corp, and we specialize in regenerative leadership, design, innovation, how we bring those things together to help create the conditions for people and communities to be happier, and so we get to live on a nice, clean, healthy planet. So that means I spend my days in boardrooms through to pixels on the screen and DevOps. And any given day will be a mix of all of it and everything in between. So lots of fun, and I guess we'll dive into some aspects of how my head works and why that's actually completely natural to me to zoom in and out at those levels.
Thank you. So I guess right before we begin, we're going to maybe jump into a few definitions just to understand a little bit more about what we're talking about. But just before that, I just wanted to acknowledge that, as I said before, our brains are quite a mystery, and our minds in particular. And one thing we know for sure is that everyone is unique and their own experiences, their own perspective, and their own approach towards everything in life and their surroundings is different. And that's a very good thing, and we're here to celebrate it. And so I know that we don't always get the opportunity to stop and think about how we think. And maybe when we do that, it might be a little bit confronting. I know it was for me. When I started thinking about this a month ago, it was pretty hard, because that questionnaire actually wasn't exactly black and white for me. Like, it wasn't a straight answer, and so it's okay. It's good. Like, we're all on this journey of self-discovery, and I think this is part of it. And the more, and hopefully this helps shed light on the amazing different ways that our brains can work. And maybe it starts us on a journey of understanding ourselves better. Okay, so we're talking about imagination, and the term that you'll hear a lot is Aphantasia. So Josh, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Aphantasia and what we know about it and the spectrum.
Thanks. I think what was interesting to me is how quickly this has spread, because just a couple of years ago, no one knew about this, right? It was only in the last 2 decades we came along with this term, and now every second person I meet at a pub and you mention Aphantasia too, they're like, oh, is that thing and with the apple? And but we've been talking about our mind's eye, right? The ability to visualize things for a really long time. And it was only about 2 decades ago, there was a gentleman who I think he had brain surgery or had head injury. And he went to his doctor and he said, "Doctor, I can't picture things in my head." He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I can't see anything." And he's trying to work it out. But the reason that it stuck was because this guy said, "No, before the head injury, I could picture my wife, my kids really vividly, and now I can't." And they said, "Oh, this is really interesting." And so, I've lost my microphone. Is yours? And so they started to research it. I think this was about 2003, and by about 2009, they had to come up with a term, and someone contacted someone studying classical Greek and said, "Oh, hey, there's this term, Aphantasia, which talks about this visualization, the mind's eye. Why don't we just stick an A in front of it to denote its absence?" And that's how we got Aphantasia, the inability to visualize things in a mind.
Cool.
The other end, I feel like Alan should talk about that. The other end, which we've said of this spectrum, because it's a spectrum and we're all somewhere on that, is hyperphantasia. The inability not to picture things in your mind.
So I actually just put up the screen if you guys want to point to it, tell us what we're looking at, maybe from each of your perspectives.
Yeah.
Ben,
okay.
do you want to start? Sorry, Alan.
No, you go for it, mate.
Well, if you haven't done the VVIQ test, there's it was recently updated, so it's not just a series of questions that you can do, but it has a slightly interactive element right at the bottom of the test, where it essentially gives you this crystal clear image of a horse, and then you can use a slider to describe, what exactly it is that you're seeing. And while it's not exactly accurate, they've done their best to try to capture some of the nuance of what exactly we're seeing. So hyperphantasia is kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum, really, from aphantasia, where you have extremely vivid mental imagery, sometimes to the point of it appearing lifelike in front of you, which is the case for myself. Not all the time, but I have hyperphantasia. And it does also come with sounds, smells, sensations. So it's a lot of different things. It can be very overwhelming. But yes, it's quite different as I think quite different as a mental experience from aphantasia.
So I'm kind of at the other end of the spectrum. So I have aphantasia and also multisensory aphantasia. So in my mind's eye, my head, the way I think, process thinking and remember things is without using images or sound or anything else that has come in through any of my 5+ senses. And yes, we do have way more than 5 senses. So everything happens, very detailed memory. I don't live in a black void. I also don't live in a grey-white void. I have the absence of any visual experience, any colour at all. If I close my eyes, there's nothing going on other than an internal monologue that doesn't play out auditory. And one of the ways I actually started finding out more specifically with the term and some of the ways this has been categorised is I only found out sort of about a decade ago that there are people who don't have an internal monologue. So I have an internal monologue, but it doesn't speak to me in an out loud auditory sense. Talking to some other people, they actually hear like a literal voice in their head. I just have a endless knowing that I'm talking to myself all the time.
So hopefully, Ben, one day we'll know how to visualize what you're describing. But
you can come into my little world, into the void.
Yeah, please keep describing it to us, and hopefully we'll understand how to visualize it. But this is the closest we got. Josh, did you want to explain? I think you mentioned hyperphantasia.
So I never feel confident on the test, the VVIQ test, saying nothing at all. I'm like, I don't see anything, but like the line between dim and vague, I'm like, what is dim and vague, right? Like as in, I'd often describe it if you asked me to close my eyes and imagine my wife or my kids. I can't see anything. I could maybe see like, or imagine that there's a silhouette there, and then I start to think about what I know about them. My daughter Grace has wavy, curly hair. I know that. She has blue eyes, big grin, small chin. Like, so for the horse here, I've kind of gone the slider as low as I could possibly do it, and then brought it back so that there was something that resembled a silhouette. That's how I tend to describe my mind. I can't intentionally make my mind see things, and I haven't been able to my whole life, and I always thought it was a trope in movies when you saw wanted posters or your teacher at school asked you to close your eyes and imagine you're on a beach. I always just thought people were weird, realised people are different.
Can you maybe share a little bit of your experience, just in general, not knowing and then like how that affects your life? Like, is there anything that this experience actually changed or understanding it a little bit more has transformed your life in any way, or your design practice as well?
Is this all of us? Are we? Yeah.
Who wants to start?
You're off, mate.
I'm off. I've got a microphone up. Alan's got the broken one. I think for all of us, you got to be careful because it's easy to gravitate to a label. I think it's easy to identify with something and be like, oh yes, that's me. And so I want to be careful because one of the things that I've learned is, and I watched it again on a video recently, was just like, aphantasia is not a clinical diagnosis, right? Like it's actually just a scientific spectrum to understand how we all interpret things and talk about things. And so for me, it was helpful to go, if I understand my mind, I can understand other people's minds better as well. And so when I was, whether that was design leadership or whether that was just my proclivity to visualize everything as flow diagrams all the time, whereas other people didn't seem to have that need, I was like, this makes a lot of sense why I gravitate to a method, a type. And other people benefit from it, but they don't necessarily feel the need to open up a digital canvas and put everything on there to get it out of their brain, because I can't move blocks around in my head and keep them all intact. I get them out there and make a a wireframe, or I make a mock-up, or I make a flow diagram. So for me, it really just helped me understand why I do what I do and how I potentially communicate better for the people that think differently to me.
Ben, have you had a similar experience to that?
Kind of, but different. And while Josh and I are both somewhere at the aphantasia end of that spectrum, and would both put the same label on it, there's areas where it's very similar experience, and then other things that are completely different. And so doubling down on Josh's point, it's very easy to attribute, like, oh, there's this thing that I do, and then I'm at this point on the Aphantasia spectrum, so therefore it's because I have aphantasia. So I'd encourage not to do that. It's another dimension to understand ourselves as opposed to label and go, and definitely not something to pathologize and say you're broken because of wherever you sit on that spectrum. And I think that goes for a lot of things that are currently getting labeled and sort of pathologized, where it's just natural human difference. My personal experience with aphantasia is the language. So the term, the name itself is only 2015, and I only found out about the name about 2 years ago. But I've known all my life sort of the self-awareness of I have this going on in my head, and this is how I think and how I remember things and construct memories, my relationship with them. And when I talk to other people, they're describing a different thing. So it's had no change at all. I think that with any of these things, there is such thing as too much introspection and navel gazing, and you can fall down a rabbit hole and get yourself all tangled up. And funny enough, sort of being on the end of aphantasia, it's something that a lot of the research shows that we're less prone to do because we don't have the multisensory data. That sort of goes with that. So reliving experiences that might be positive or negative, we don't have that at that end of the spectrum so much, right? And I'll speak for myself. I don't have that at that end of the spectrum. So I don't get to relive in multisensory data any bad stuff that's happened to me in my life. I have a memory of it. I can tell you all the things that happened, very explicit. I know how I felt, but I don't have to re-experience it. And so there's been some interesting research around PTSD where people with aphantasia actually have less of an impact and less likely to. And then on the positive side as well, also tend to be, find it much easier to meditate and go into really quite reflective states because there's not as much sensory stuff happening in the mind. So the short version is, no, it hasn't changed anything. It's been great for self-awareness and more reflection. And I definitely come from it, as Josh said as well, from the point of building that empathy and that we all think differently and trying to understand how other people are thinking and feeling and just that empathic side of things. I think it all helps with that. And then there's a consciousness angle that I'm very fascinated in, but I won't dive down that rabbit hole today.
For myself, I've known about how I think since I was about 7. So I knew that I had a lot of noise in my head, and it was it's just like a cacophony of sounds and images that happen all at the same time constantly. And the short answer is knowing the definitions. It's not really helped me because I only found out about hyperphantasia last year, and I was like, oh wow, it's a thing. This is interesting. This sounds kind of like what it is that I experience, but it has helped make sense of some aspects of what I experience. I think something that Ben mentioned about the reliving traumas or emotional things, that happens to me. I think I experience memories really richly, and it's taken a lot of focus and calmness and actual specific kind of honing of skills to be able to not be bothered or not be weighed down by those things. So I think the short answer of my own experience is that I've used visuals as a way to, it's kind of meditative, but as a way to learn, as a way to balance the intensity of what's going on inside. And only in my adulthood have I really figured out how to use that really effectively. It took me a long time So all of high school, so all of primary school, all of high school, and then kind of the start of my university time, it was difficult to kind of work with. But eventually I worked out what it was, and actually, funny enough, filmmaking helped me a lot as well, because it helps to get the ideas out into a very vivid medium. So yeah.
So I've spoken to all three of you quite extensively over the past few weeks, and what strikes me is you're all very self-reflective, deeply self-reflective, and I think that makes you quite curious and aware of what it is, regardless of the label, but aware of yourself. And I'm wondering, how does that translate into your creative practice? Does it, how has it translated into your creative practice?
It's probably the natural time to say, double down on what I said before in terms of the levels of detail. I naturally think, because I'm not thinking in absolute, as in here's a specific thing. I'm thinking in abstract concepts, and it makes it very natural for me, just because of how my head works, to think at the very top level of things. And I am definitely a top-down thinker, so I need a frame of reference and a context of here's what we're doing and why. And if that doesn't exist, I'll invest a whole bunch of time in helping create that and getting a shared vision and making that explicit in terms of the top level, and then working through the levels of detail. And so as I work through the levels of detail, that's emergent. And so I don't have a predetermined snapshot. It's again been some interesting research around, in the creative industry, there's actually an overrepresentation of people with aphantasia, funnily enough. So a lot of people think that because you don't see the mental imagery, and aphantasia, while it's multisensory, it's most frequently talked about in the visual. So not having that mental imagery, that therefore wouldn't have massive imagination or creativity. And there's been a whole bunch of research done, including that the founder of Pixar is said to have had aphantasia, and I saw some headline that like about 50% of their workforce did as well. So really interesting in terms of how that plays out. How it plays out for me is when it comes to doing things like visual design and sort of detailed design, I'll put it out here, as I'm in the wrong room for this, but I can't draw. I know there's going to be people say everyone can draw. It's a skill I've never developed because, I'm being evicted already. It's a skill I haven't developed because I don't have anything mentally to try and reproduce. So I will, and it's not a skill that I can do rapidly. So if I sketch, I need to take lots of strokes and see it sort of evolving, and that's really messy. And that's a very hard iterative process in the case of pen and pencil, at least for me. Whereas doing that digitally, where I can rapidly do graphic design, visual design, composition, and I can iterate and redo things without the technical aspect of having to rub stuff out and redraw, then that's that very iterative real-time process. So digital tools I got involved with in the 90s as a way to be able to do that. And that's key to sort of making things real. I need to externalize things, which is partly aphantasia, it's partly that I grew up a brickie, it's part of lots of things. It's not enough for the idea of this thing to live in my head. It needs to be made real, and I'll do whatever it takes. If that's DevOps and pixels, or if that's doing manual labor to make something real, is something that I'm very driven by.
This is what really fascinates me, because Ben and I have similarities in I suppose, our mind's eye or lack thereof, but such difference in approach. You'll hear things maybe from me that will sound similar, and they are, and then at those points we've made different choices. And I think when it comes to, for instance, drawing, I got so frustrated as a kid that I couldn't draw a realistic horse. And I remember tracing a horse out of like a magazine and then showing my parents and pretending like I drew the horse because I was so frustrated. And they're all like, "Wow, this horse is amazing!" And I felt so guilty. I still do. I still do. And then somewhere along the way, I realized just different people, different minds, and drawing for me became a don't shortcuts. Like, you don't need to draw realistic eyes. If you can just draw little half circles up, then all of a sudden you get this happy expression. And so for part of it, it was like learn my limits and then where I should stop or how I should work out a strategy around them. And so some of that was visualization, and cool, like I've learned this, so now I can, you know, just do simple drawings or learn a simple style or try different variations and learn what works. And the other one, I think I've been a manager for the last 7 or 8 years in design. And part of it is also I really, really like to hire very oddly and different shaped designers on my teams that build each other up, that reinforce each other, that, you know, you get someone who's super strong on visuals and another one that's really good on research, but you expect them together as a team to be able to cover the spectrum rather than trying to find these unicorn full stack. Apparently they've got massive visual memories and also are great with logic and other, like, we're all different. And so if you find those different shapes, I find that's really fun, but also then you get to move faster and everyone grows at a better rate. So I know that's not just aphantasia, but I think understanding different ways of thinking, different minds' eyes, and getting more and more aware of my own limitations helps me, one, hire people that complement my limitations, and hire people that complement each other.
That was really cool what you said about the hiring people, different shape designers. I've been part of a lot of different creative teams, and I think the team aspect really helps me thrive for several reasons. The dialogue between myself and other creatives, and the dialogue can take place, through speaking, through images, through the making of things. So the dialogue is very helpful for me, because then it really does allow me to focus. And I think over the years I've become a lot better at focusing, to a point now where I can kind of hyper focus and block out a lot of other things around me. But I think the way I think about it is that because I've known about it for so long, I've known that drawing as an activity, as a physical activity, as a mental activity, has always been helpful for me. It has been part of my practice throughout my career. So I've been an illustrator, I've been a graphic designer, I've been an art director, a film director, a producer, a writer, and the drawing part is really just about getting out ideas. So I do a lot of writing as well, but I think the drawing is one of the fastest, probably the fastest way for what is going on inside to be better managed, so that it's like if you think of it as an overly full library of things, when I draw, I remove big sections of it and I start to organize it, and it doesn't seem so hectic. After a while, it seems like, everything is where it's supposed to be, as opposed to when I leave it in. If I sit like I do like I do today, without a pen in my hand, it's kind of very overwhelming. It's usually things happen to a point where I hear too much and I can't process what's going on unless I get some of it out. So I think I have been affected by this in unique ways, and I've found small hacks to help me focus. So I'll focus on small things, and I'll do like little kind of visual sweeps of the room, and then it helps me make sense of it, and the conversation doesn't seem so full on, because I think as everybody speaks, as Ben and Josh are speaking, I'm getting so many images, like lots and lots of things are popping up, and I want to draw them out. I feel this compulsion to sketch it out, but it's not always practical. I try to make it.
Alan, actually, can you? So Ben mentioned he needs to put it out on digital on screen and kind of iterate there so that he can figure it out. Can you talk a bit about your design process? Is there anything different there?
That's a good question. I don't mind if I get it out on screen or on a whiteboard or on paper or in the dirt. Like as long as I can get it out with some kind of using some kind of visual tool, it's helpful. Does that make sense?
So I think most of us have experienced your live scribing, and we're all like, how does he not sketch it right on, try to figure it out on the paper? And a lot of times you've told me that you just see it already and you can just basically, you figure it out in your mind.
So that's what you mean, okay. Yes, the prototyping part of it is, it's an advantage. So I can prototype in my mind. Some things are easier than others. If I'm very close to the subject, I can see it really clearly, and I can kind of move the image around in my head so I can see different angles, and that's helpful. I remember when I used to storyboard on commercials and on films, I'd be working with directors and producers, and they would be hitting me with rapid fire scenes, and I could see lots of different camera angles. I would get 10 or 12 different scenes for one description, and then I would have to just choose one. In the beginning, it was hard for me to choose one because I was kind of being overwhelmed by the words. But as I became more confident and calmer, I was able to choose things quickly. So make executive decisions and say, okay, that is usually the kind of scene that people are talking about when they refer to this. I'll try that. I'll lead with that, and then I'll have a nice alternative. It's already there. Like I can see it next to the frame, but I'll only sketch it out if they ask for it. And I think then it looks like it's really fast, but there's a lot of things going on, and I usually find that I get kind of tired after those sessions. I'm like, oh, that was full on, because I see all those things, and I just have to choose one out of the many that are kind of floating around in front of me.
So it's kind of like instead of the screen, it's the screen in your mind.
Sorry, I just one quick extension to this. It is a little bit like a screen in my mind, but I often think back to a description about Nikola Tesla and his mental workshop. He was able, apparently, according to things that he writes and talks about, he was able to prototype with precision in terms of measurements and exactness of distance and weight, which is pretty amazing. I definitely can't do that, but I think I get close enough approximations in my head, and I know for him it was useful because when he would speak to people about preparing materials to build any one of his many inventions, he was able to articulate as if he'd already done the plans for it. I'd love to be able to do something like that, but still with storyboarding, with usually with design wireframes, the precision doesn't have to be to that degree. So I'm not talking about pixel distances. I'm talking about usually functions and the layout of things.
Yeah, I was just going to double down on something Alan said as well in terms of getting it out. And you said even if it was like in the mud or in the dirt,
yeah,
I need to get it out, but I also need permanence because it forms part of my memory. So it's something that's definitely not sort of consciously. I think it's sort of in a subconscious adaptation. I take a lot of photos, and it's sort of my photographic memory and sort of photo journaling. Writing, something I've always done a lot of, and getting it out of my head, even from a very young age, sort of that journaling. And I know I've written stuff, but I also want the exact things I wrote. And so, in the very early days of scanners, I scanned all my notes, and I've always got them with me. So that externalized form of my memory, down to levels of detail, especially with the visual, my music collection, massive music collection, that's always with me. So I have these because I can't recreate it inside out. I need that stimuli coming back in as part of the sort of that memory function. So I am not satisfied with transience of some of those records. I want permanence, and I want it digitized so it's always with me. So it's my augmented self as part of my one of my many functions and ways of thinking and memorizing.
That's actually a great segue into tools. Are there any tools or shortcuts that you use that help you? Maybe Josh, you can talk about. Have you been able to recreate that horse, or did you figure out a different approach maybe?
I'm a bit conscious of time. I know people might have work like I do. Tools-wise, just anything that can help me kind of piece together what I can't kind of grasp hold of in my head. Often that's connected ideas and thoughts. I really love, although I haven't been able to master it, so it's probably not the right tool, Obsidian, the note-taking app that does the graphical noting. Like, there's just a fascination with my mind about connecting disparate elements and then giving weights. And I'm like, I feel like that's the relationship of ideas in our heads. And so I'm like, things that can connect it. So my number one tool is always some kind of digital whiteboarding. One, for the permanence of if I do it on a whiteboard in the office and then I work from home, I've got to go back into the office again. But two, it's this idea of an infinite canvas and then you can move stuff around. Like, I just cannot escape from using a digital whiteboard with its, infinite area to put stuff on, expand, zoom in, zoom out, draw lines connecting things, move them around in logical ways. That is how I get my thoughts and my thinking out. And I don't think I can work without some form of kind of digital whiteboard.
Okay, great. Well, wrapping up, I think you touched on it quite a lot, the difference between what we call visual thinking and what this meetup's about, and hopefully some people are doing, which is kind of the act of externalizing thoughts and trying to synthesize them and understand them on paper, as opposed to mental visualization. And I think it's kind of clear that you all use visual thinking, the external act, in different ways, but it's really important. Well, to me, it's really important for collaboration, problem solving, for getting it out there, and communication. And maybe understanding how you mentally visualize and mentally imagine things and understand and process information can help with that, because it's obvious that you figured out your own ways of working through visual thinking. Any last thoughts on that, on visual thinking?
A year ago, I was the first speaker that Deanna and Alan invited to Think Visual. And I started with this comic by Jeff Payton that's just got three people that said, "I'm glad we all agree." And in their heads, they've got three different shapes. One's got a triangle, one's got a circle, one's got a square or something. And then they draw them out on a whiteboard, and then they stare at them and go, "Oh." And then they work together through the idea, and the panel ends with, "I'm glad we all agree," and they've got a modified shape in all of their minds. I think we could take today and just say, like, it's not just three distinct shapes. One's blurry, one's black and dark and you can't see much. Like, as in, not only do we get a different idea in our head and it forms, but we also hold ideas differently and think of it. So I think being able to get stuff out, whether that's for your colleagues, whether that's for your family, like I've used visuals or other things to talk to my own family members about ideas and concepts or document things out. I think you can use these tools to get what's in your head out and share it with others, because you can't assume what's in their head is the same as what's in your head.
Awesome. Anything else?
Just really quickly, it is, I think the shared meaning aspect is what I have noticed in all the forms of visual thinking that I've ever used. Any external form that it takes shape in, it is the shared meaning part of it that makes it so powerful. So I often start things by saying, I'm not here to be right. I'm here to help you understand what's going on in your head in some way or shape that other people can actually see. And if they can see, they can build upon it, they can iterate on it. So I think visual thinking is really powerful for it being able to connect all of us and connect our thinking, and it helps to leverage what's inside, all the skills and the abilities that we have inside, in a way that we can actually do something about it.
And like even just the three of us on talking about some of our experiences, we're at Sheds, and as you've been reflecting yourselves, we're all different, and that is normal and valuable. I'm a big fan of a strengths-based approach. So just because something isn't your strength, you don't need to be strong across everything. Double down on your strength areas. Cover off your weaknesses if that's hiring awesome team members or working with certain people or in certain environments and contexts. Use that as the approach, but double down on your strengths and embrace and celebrate all of our differences, because that's what makes us human and special.
That's great. Thank you. Well, thank you all so much. It was really short, but the good thing is we have three YouTube, longer YouTube interviews that I've had with each one of them one-on-one. So you can, we haven't, they're not published yet, but they will be in the next month. So you can go and keep listening, and
it will be
in the next month. Yeah, keep listening and have a longer deep dive. Do we have time for like 1 or 2 questions?
I
I think, Diana, we have time for one. There is one announcement that we want to make too as well.
Okay. I just want to say, in the meantime, Jace, who's been scribing in the back, she can connect her screen if she wants to. But yeah, any questions?
I've got a valuable one.
Or no questions?
I have sorry, I'm aware of everyone's time.
Oh, sorry. I have a mic. Just feel free to sneak out if you need to.
Interesting, you talked about abstract concepts, top down. I'm curious what you mean. Maybe I can't visualize what you mean, but is it you need the words and structure? What is that helps you be able to then move
What the hell's
forward?
going on in my head?
Yeah, I know we talked about that, but I'm curious, do you go to words first to get around that meaning to communicate, to move forward with your team?
Yeah, well, I think there's some interesting layers there. One, starting internally and me making sense and making meaning of things. And and won't deep dive too much here. Long reflection piece that I've written part 1 of and part 2 soon, plus video. So with a lot of this, especially with the aphantasia end of it, it's normally talked about as just knowing. It's like it's this deep knowing without necessarily having that sensory data. So there might be a subconscious sort of language, and for that knowing to then be converted into semantic and a sort of a spatial dimension to everything as well. But then to sort of know and convert that to language, so then I'm getting more explicit, and that's almost my form of prototyping, is being able to form sort of sentences and structure around it, and then that flows into communication. And my preferred is actually written, because then I can prototype and I don't need to preform like I do when I'm talking, and it just I don't get to sort of pre-edit things. The other thing that I then do is some form of visual communication, because I know that's a sort of communication preference of a lot of other people. So working out ways to more graphically, definitely not sketching, because that's not going to help anyone understand what I'm talking about, including even whiteboard work. That's not my strong point. I stay away from that as much as possible. So yeah, it's sort of the knowing converting to language out, and then other visual forms of communication out as well. What do you think?
Question, does that mean
Do you need a mic?
if everyone thought like you, would it be easier for you?
No, I think that would not make for a very good world. So, no, and it's, I think, something that we've all been saying is it's actually that diversity of thought and ways of thinking that is the value. When we need to get something done to then execute and deliver on something, we'll need to find enough shared meaning. And even visual only gets us part of the way there. You can have the same image, and this is the difference between sense making and meaning making, which we normally conflate as synonyms, but they actually mean completely different things. The way we construct our world, our mental paradigms and models of the world, how we feel about our relationship with different things, that's all different no matter what sensory or what externalization of it is. So whatever method we're using, we still need to have empathy.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Diana.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jace. That's very cool sketch note. Yeah, awesome.
Plugging the thing just for one
Yes.
quick announcement.
Thank you. Thanks. And thanks everyone for sticking around for a few more minutes. But yeah, on your way out, there's more food if you want to grab any more food. There's also, you can upload your sketch notes. So if you did do some sketching now of the conversation, we'd love to see it. And our next meetup is going to, is that what you want to know?
So we have a next meetup in June, on June 11th. I'm just going to quickly put that screen on for a second.
No. What does it say?
So our next meetup is going to be
In a second. Sorry.
Professor Martin Tomic and Steve Beatty. If you don't know who they are, they wrote an amazing book last year, the year before, Designing Tomorrow. Martin is also the... Yes, they happen to be very nicely designed. I wonder who did it.
Good design award level.
Martin is head of the transdisciplinary school at UTS, and Steve is the founder of UX Australia, which is incidentally back on this year. So if anyone wants to go, I think tickets should be on sale soon. So yes, please come along. June 11, Martin and Steve will be giving a talk. It'll be about visualizing futures. So very interested to see what that means.
What happens the next day?
What does happen the next day? I'm not sure.
Sydney
Sydney
Tea.
Design Thinking.
Sydney
Where you'll be.
Sydney Design Thinking, for those of you who don't know, are a
Ben-
partner
Ben
of ours.
can-
We sponsor their meetup. I think it's the largest design meetup in Sydney.
In the
Maybe
world.
Ben can quickly
In the
do it.
world. Okay. Yesterday
10,000
it was
members yesterday.
10,000 members. They got their 10,000th.
And next month is our 10th birthday.
So 10th birthday, we're going to be there. Ben's going to be there. It's going to be great.
I'm sorry, everyone. I actually have no idea. Can you try this QR code? I don't know what I did. Ben, did you want to quickly tell us what the next Sydney DT is about?
So it's our 10th birthday, so there'll be cake. That's probably all you need to know.
There you go.
We've got, the theme is around designing interactions in living spaces. So think large
go.
installations, smart cities,
Try again.
things like Vivid and that kind of thing. So Stephen Bai, who some of you might know from a while ago, Martin knows well, was
It's working.
were you a supervisor at USID? And I think you've been roped in now to be part of next month as well. I actually met Stephen back in the early
Should be
2010s
working.
as part of the IXDA Sydney
It should be working.
in this very building when there was a mentoring program. So I was his mentor for a little bit. So knew him from back then. He's gone on to do awesome things, did awesome things even back then with Vivid installations. And Rihanna Mo is also, who's part of his team, is also going to be sharing as well.
Okay.
And Martin's going to jump in because you're on the board of his business or an advisor. So interesting stuff.
What does the cake look like?
Well, I can't tell you right now because I can't see it. I can describe what it could look like. You have to come and taste it. It's more of a taste thing, I think, and a smell. If you go to SydDT, as in short for Sydney Design Thinking.org, that'll get you straight to the meetup page.
It's also an evening meetup, so it should be easier for some of you.
So there's
folks.
drinks and pizza.
Instead of coffee and breakfast.
So you can come for coffee and breakfast on Wednesday and then go out partying on Thursday.
Exactly.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Hopefully the QR code's working now. Sorry about that. And yeah, hope to see you at the next one.
Excellent.